Quite a number of events are currently happening in our universe that we aren't aware of, and one of these recent events is about to shake the whole Earth. The government is known to work on top-secret projects around the world, and one of these projects has been announced to the public by an anonymous man. The anonymous man revealed that this project would greatly affect us, and we are not ready for the consequences. What is this project about? Is it going to cause an apocalypse? Join us as we explore how this anonymous man just revealed something big is going to hit us and revealed we are not ready. Our universe is marvelous, but how our government runs several top-secret activities in it is just beyond mind-blowing. These top-secret projects are only known by a few top government officials, with a couple of scientists and physicists engineering the project. Knowing that such projects are in progress can be quite exciting, but one we never knew would be scary is the top-secret mission of time travel, currently ongoing behind closed doors. One of the officials participating in the project leaked this information, and he made this announcement because what he witnessed when he time traveled was not exactly enticing. Based on the project's nature, he had to leak the information anonymously, but his stories about the future are enough to send chills down the spine. In the anonymous time traveler's statement, he confirmed that he worked for a government project in the future, and he was part of the people assigned to those that invented the time machine. He stated further that joining this project came at a cost because joining the project came with the requirement of having no family. But for him, he had no wife or child, so this was the perfect job. He also said that from what he has seen, that energy never leaves the universe. The time machine also took him forward in time for him to see how events would play out in the future and to also see what it has in store for humanity in the coming years. Well, according to what he said, seeing humanity's future wasn't a pleasurable experience. He traveled to 2150, and in that time he saw that freedom was virtually non-existent. The poverty statistics were also alarming, as over 4 billion people were very poor with mass famine, and that for that reason, the human population had to be leveled out to around 10 billion people. There was only one government ruling the entire world at the time. This anonymous time traveler also confirmed that there are many timelines in the universe, and these several timelines do not always show the same outcome. This means that his partners might have seen a different outcome of humanity's future, but that does not make his experience the same. He concluded by saying that if humanity still stays on the same path we're on at the moment, there might be a huge problem that would lead to what he saw in his timeline. However, the problem with this anonymous time traveler's account of his experience is that some people don't believe him. Generally, people have always not believed those that came forward with their time-traveling experience. On the other hand, another set of people say these time travelers are part of the top 1% of the elites in our universe, warning everybody else about the looming danger. Well, some scientists still aren't having it, as they oppose the concept of time traveling, saying it's impossible. But is that actually true? Not all scientists agree with this, as some of them believe that time travel is possible. And no, we're not talking about movie inventors like Doc Brown of Back to the Future. These are real-life scientists presently trying to prove their colleagues wrong by actualizing the dream of turning back the clock and traveling to their ultimate destination. And standing tall among them is Ron Mallet. Mallet is an astrophysicist who has dedicated much of his adult life to the notion that time travel is possible. In fact, he has derived the scientific equations and principles upon which he says the time machine could be invented. While he understands that his designs and theories will probably not give room for time travel in his lifetime, he's been striving in parallel to a respected academic career to achieve his dream of exploring back in time to see his dear father again. Ron Mallet was at the tender age of 10 when his father suffered a heart attack, an event that the scientist affirms changed the track of his life forever. While grieving his father's death, a sad Ron Mallet came across an illustrated version of the classic sci-fi novel, The Time Machine. That was the book that changed his life. Mallet's father, a TV repairman, had instilled in his son the zeal for reading and encouraged his budding passion for science before he died. So Mallet coming across this book seemed like he'd found his purpose. With special thanks to the imagination of author H.G. Wells, Mallet felt his family tragedy didn't present an end, but a new beginning. That zeal dragged him on through the rest of his childhood into adulthood, and 60 years later, 77-year-old Mallet is a professor of physics at the University of Connecticut. He has spent a lot of his career researching black holes and general relativity. This includes the theories of time, space, and gravity that the legendary Albert Einstein famously explored. Mallet has also been developing theories about time travel in his own time, which led him to embark on his journey, a complex and often disputed quest to construct a machine that can visit the past. As awesome as this sounds, the professor of physics is still a long way from his destination. Some scientists, as we said earlier, have argued he'll never get there, but his journey makes for a touching story that's fueled with the power of love and the potency of childhood dreams, coupled with man's desire to control destiny in an unknowable universe. With the way Mallet is confident about his theory, you might relate him to the mad professor stereotype. However, Mallet didn't want people to refer to him that way, and at the same time, he wanted to make sure his ambitions weren't ridiculed and his job not threatened. Rob Mallet had all of this in mind and was pretty scared about how the public would perceive him, but when the 77-year-old physicist began to share his ideas with the rest of the world, he discovered that he struck a chord with several people, something that he notes shows the universality of the desire to revisit the past. This seems true because at one point in our lives, Mallet said, we all have regrets, past decisions we wonder about, or people we've lost who we long to see again. People started contacting me from all over the world about the possibility of going back in time, he concluded. And that was the encouragement Mallet needed to push on with his quest for time travel. Today, photos of Mallet while at work show him surrounded by equipment in a crowded laboratory, displaying his principles at work via small-scale experiments where he stands beaming in front of chalkboards where he's written out his formulas. Clearly, Mallet's dream of time travel is profoundly on the move, but how feasible is the science behind his ideas? It is vital, though, as all of the science behind his theories on space travel hinges on the general theory of relativity and Einstein's special theory of relativity. To put it in a nutshell, Einstein theorized that time can be affected by speed, says Mallet. He gave an example of astronauts moving in space inside a rocket that's traveling close to the speed of light. Because of this speed, time would pass differently on Earth than it would for the people in the rocket. They could actually come back, finding out that they're only a few years older, but unknown to them, decades have passed here on Earth, Mallet concluded. He also references the 1968 sci-fi classic movie Planet of the Apes. In the end, an astronaut discovers that he hasn't traveled to a distant ape-ruled planet, but only come back to Earth in a post-apocalyptic future in which mankind has been conquered by simians. This is an accurate representation of Einstein's special theory of relativity, says Mallet. So the upshot is that according to the special theory of relativity, if you're traveling fast enough, you are traveling through time, and effectively, that would be a representation of time travel. Einstein's general theory of relativity is based on the concept of gravity and reviews how time is affected by gravity. What Einstein meant by that is the stronger gravity is, the more time will slow down, says Mallet. Einstein's general theory of relativity says that what we refer to as the force of gravity isn't a force at all. It's actually the bending of space by a huge object. But according to Mallet, if you can bend space, there's a possibility of you twisting space. In Einstein's theory, what we call space also involves time. That's why it's called space-time. Whatever it is you do to space also happens to time. Mallet postulated further that by twisting time into a loop, one could travel from the future back to the past and then travel back to the future. This is where the idea of a wormhole comes in, a tunnel with two openings. Mallet also suggests that light can be used as well to affect time with the use of an instrument called a ring laser. To back up his claims, he created a prototype of this ring laser showing how lasers could be used to form a circulating beam of light that twists space and time. His first job inspired this prototype, which was experimenting with the laser's effect on airplane jet engines. He also came up with a theoretical equation which, he argues, shows that the prototype would work. Ron Mallet's work is quite impressive, but is this going to work out and turn into an actual time machine? Maybe, but not everyone thinks so. Let's begin with Paul Sutter, an astrophysicist who hosts a podcast called Ask a Spaceman. Sutter stated, "Time travel into the past is allowed potentially in our theory of general relativity, how we understand gravity. But every time we try to concoct a theoretical time travel device, some other bit of physics busts in and breaks up the party. Sutter acknowledges that he knows Mallet's work and thinks it's interesting to deliver results, if not necessarily on track. He stated, "I don't think it's necessarily going to be fruitful because I do think there are deep flaws in his mathematics and his theory, and so a practical device seems unattainable," he concluded. Another platform where Mallet's theory was not bought and in fact brought about serious criticism was in 2005 by Kendi Olam and Alan Everett of the Institute of Cosmology, Department of Physics and Astronomy at Tufts University. They announced they had discovered holes in Mallet's equation and the practicality of his proposed device. However, Mallet does not only have critics slurping around his work, there are also people who love his work and theory and made it clear that they were in support of his endeavors. One of them was British science writer Brian Clegg. As a matter of fact, he also profiled the scientist in his book, How to Build a Time Machine. While not everyone agrees that his planned device would work, I think it's an interesting enough proposition to go for an experimental trial, Clegg stated. If it did work, it should be stressed that it's not a practical time machine. It will produce a tiny but measurable effect demonstrating the principle. However, Mallet was quick to clarify that his ideas are theoretical, but while this theory is not yet in motion, what other theories about time travel have been proved and are actually possible? Well, there are theories that time travel is very possible and they show it, but it is not happening in the way you're probably thinking. According to science, the thing about time travel is that you're doing it at this very moment, speeding into the future at the incredible rate of 1 second per second. Not what you expected, right? You're pretty much always moving through time at the same speed, whether you're watching the sunset or wishing you had more hours to check on a friend that lives out of town. But unfortunately, this is not always the type of time travel we have always imagined, judging from the plots gotten from multiple science fiction writers, from movies such as Star Trek, Back to the Future, or television shows like Doctor Who. These all have characters that have climbed into some weird-looking vehicle that would either spin them into the past or blast them into the future. And once the characters have traveled through time, they tussle with the next timeline of events that happens if the past or present is altered based on information from the future. This is where time travel stories cross with the idea of parallel universes or alternate timelines. Although many people are intrigued by the idea of changing the past or seeing the future before it comes through, nobody has demonstrated the kind of back-and-forth travel we witness in science fiction. There is also no proposed method that can be used to send a person through significant periods of time that wouldn't cause causalities on the way. Perhaps the technology is still top secret, just like the anonymous time traveler said. Well, we can't say yet, but as far as we know, there are some scientists who don't buy the idea of time travel. Even the physicist Stephen Hawking proved it in his book, Black Holes and Baby Universes. In the book, he talked about time travel, saying, "The best evidence we have that time travel is not possible and never will be is that hordes of tourists from the future have not invaded us." Regardless, science does support some amount of time bending though, just like Ron Mallet theorized. For example, physicist Albert Einstein's theory of special relativity proposes that time is an illusion that moves relative to an observer. An observer traveling near the speed of light will experience time with all its after effects much more slowly than an observer at rest. This is a similar situation that happened with astronaut Scott Kelly and his twin brother. Scott Kelly aged ever so slightly less over the course of a year up in space compared to his twin brother who stayed here on Earth. Other scientific theories about time travel include some weird physics that arise around black holes, string theory, and wormholes as theorized by Ron Mallet. For the most part, however, time travel remains the base of an ever-growing array of science fiction television shows, comics, video games, books, movies, and much more. But hopefully we also get some of that in real life. Do you think that time travel would be possible one day, or is the anonymous man just trying to sell a lie? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below.